From all over the world, rally racers have descended onto Riverside, California for the start of the 2019 Hemmings Motor News Great Race presented by Hagerty. These pre-1974 vehicles will travel 2,300 miles through the scenic back roads of California into Nevada and Oregon until they reach the final destination of their 9-day journey in Tacoma, Washington. Every year, more than $150,000 is rewarded to the winners of the Great Race. The winnings will be split among several classes, with the grand champion taking home $50,000. This year, 120 teams of racers have signed up for the experience of a lifetime. The Great Race is the ultimate bonding experience for people of all ages.
Welcome to the 2019 Hemmings Motor News Great Race presented by Hagerty. We are here in Riverside, California with our street clothes behind me. All the racers, the support crews, the competition staff, everybody's ready to go. It's a beautiful sunny day here. We've got thousands of spectators ready to wish off all of these great racers.
There was a beautiful setting for this year's starting line ceremony as the city of Riverside blocked off Mission Inn Avenue to give them plenty of room for the 120 vehicles and thousands of people who filled the streets. Teams left out 1 minute apart with a straight shot to Victorville, California. Huge crowds and spectators, along with fellow car enthusiasts in all 18 towns, welcomed the Great Race participants. These crowds lined the streets as the antique cars and trucks made their way into the lunch stops and on into the dinner stops to finish the day's route. With millions of miles under its belt, the Great Race is the premier time-speed endurance rally for vintage cars. For more than 30 years, it's been a bucket list event for many car guys and gals, and it gives them a great excuse to get out and drive classic cars. As the California Route 66 Museum hosted the first lunch stop of the race. After a quick break, racers jumped back on the road. This time, they would be on the clock for the first time in the scored competition. The condition of the roads and the heat played a challenging factor in the afternoon route. The course sent racers on long, straight stretches, as well as short bursts through neighborhoods, offering a different challenge with every line of course instructions. Finally, the racers made their way
Bill's
into
out of
Lancaster, California for
Bill's
the
out of
overnight
Clarksville,
stop.
Connecticut, in this 52 Hudson Hornet Sportsman competitors. This is their third race together. Guys, bring that great car in here. Welcome. A very special team. Last year's winner, number 91, father and son Jeff and Eric Burdett from Beecher, Illinois. Welcome, boys.
The town had a nicely revitalized area they called the Boulevard, which had a variety of great restaurants and a cool atmosphere. The sun was just beginning to set when the scores were tabulated, and Stage 1's winner was announced. The winner of Stage 1 is car number 1, with driver Howard Sharp and navigator Doug Sharp in their 1916 Hudson Pike Peak Hill Climber with a time of just 3.96 seconds over perfect.
We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments. The Hemmings Motor News Great Race, presented by Hagerty, is brought to you by Coker Tire Company, the world's leading supplier of tires and wheels for collectors' vehicles since 1958.
Day 2 of the race had racers covering a lot of ground. They started the day in Lancaster, California, rode bright and early. The morning route was straightforward and featured long stretches of scenic highway with snow-capped mountains to the left, with more mountains to the right.
The car did great. We had no problems with the engine. It was pretty much a calibration run all morning, so we hope we calibrated correctly.
Racers passed through Red Rock Canyon State Park, as well as several small towns such as Long Pine, Independence, and Big Pine.
Well, the car did fine. We made it. So far, it's hanging in there, holding up.
Even though it felt like low-lying desert land, the racers were gradually climbing in elevation as they made their way to Bishop, California for lunch. The brief stop at the Bishop City Park had plenty of shade and delicious barbecue that had racers begging for a second helping. From there, racers found themselves inching their way closer to those snow-capped mountains, and the result was an incredible view for the early portion of the afternoon course.
Car did well. We're having a great time. It's a lot of fun. This was great. It's a great way to see the country.
Well over $5 million worth of vintage cars are on the Great Race, the oldest car being a 1916 Hudson. More than 50 pre-World War II cars signed up for the competition, while the remainder of the vehicles are 1974 and earlier.
It's a great course today. A lot of long distance at a constant speed. Fantastic scenery. We just had a great time. It's nice to be in California, my first time ever in California, and we're looking forward to the rest of the race.
Racers dealt with elevation changes and a tough 400-mile course as they made their way up Dead Man Summit with an elevation of 8,047 feet into Carson Valley, specifically Gardnerville, Nevada.
It was too hot. Yes, the thermometer was going up, and wow, really hot.
The total cash and prize value are nearly $5 million to date, and spectator counts are way into the millions when you consider the long history of the event and the fact that several hundred spectators attend the event each year. The Great Race is still the experience of a lifetime you can do year after year. The folks in the area came out for a car show, and spectators came out in droves.
Well, it was really breezy. Gosh, I thought it was going to blow us off the road several times. And you have to hang on to your hat today for sure.
But the scenery was absolutely gorgeous. Well, we had a 24-second day. I don't know how that compares to anybody else, but we were pleased. They were such long runs today.
I had a good day. The morning, our speedometer cable was disconnected, so we had to do it all with a stopwatch. But that worked out okay, and then once we connected it, we did even better. So it was a good day.
The winner of Stage 2 is car number 7, with driver Eric Kaplan and navigator Brad Kaplan in their 1966 Ford Mustang, with a time of just 6.86 seconds over perfect.
Brad and Aaron Kaplan are the winners. First time they were the overall daily winners, and it was right here in Gardnerville. Great day, wasn't it?
Great day. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments.
The timed course started the day with a challenging climb up Donner Pass. The views were breathtaking, with mountains and Donner Lake nestled below. The altitude changes were dramatic, as were the temperature changes, as racers saw a 30-degree swing between Donner Pass and the lunch stop in Grass Valley, California. This area is the hometown of longtime great racing team Bill and Carolyn Croker. They led the pack as racers visited the beautiful downtown area that was packed with spectators and awesome hot rods from the local car community.
Beautiful. Gorgeous today. Great trip in. Lots of hills and a little snow in the mountains that kind of belied the fact we're boiling down on the ground. But it's good. Beautiful city.
It wasn't too bad. Interesting, yeah.
Real pretty scenery.
Great scenery.
Beautiful through the mountains. Incredible views that we didn't have much time to look at because we have to watch the speedometer every second. But the air was lovely up there, nice and bright.
It's really great because you get to be part of a parade in an area that, like, I've never been here before. And you get a sense of the community because the more people you see out that want to just hang out with each other and meet new people with cars, it's totally cool. The only thing I wish we had is more time because there's all these little signs and little shops, and it'd be really cool to come back here one day and see a lot of this stuff.
From there, it was an easy drive into Chico for the evening stop where spectators and racers filled the town square until it was time to crown a winner and head back to the hotels.
It's been a fantastic, great race so far. Here we are at the end of day 3 in Chico, California. We have made our way out into the desert at Lancaster, all the way up to Gardnerville, Nevada. Then we came across the Donner Pass today, past Donner Lake, across the Donner Pass, had the best lunch stop so far in Grass Valley. And then we had a nice surprise for the racers with a little pit stop in Oroville, California. And now we're here in Chico, downtown, on the square, thousands of people, and a lot of great cars.
The winner of Stage 3 is car number 51 with driver Daniel Eppel and navigator Brad Eppel in the 1916 Hudson, with a time of just 9.24 seconds over perfect.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, sir.
There you go.
Thank you. It was a long day. We ran into a lot of construction area that Had to stop for 2 minutes and then move at half speed for 22.5 seconds and then stop again for another 30 seconds and then move at half speed for another 30 seconds. And it all totaled up to somewhere between 3 minutes and 3 minutes and 10 seconds and turned in a time delay that got us pretty close. We ran some 20 mile an hour on some roads that looked like cow paths and pretty rough, but we ended up running that 12 minutes and ended up with an ace on that leg. So I'm going to congratulate Dan on that ace because it was a rough road to try to hold speed on, but he did a good job. That's a Hudson Super 6. That's the first year of the balanced crankshaft on the Hudson. That's why they're so popular. There's 3 of them in the race because for their age and their factor, they're probably the most powerful car out there. That'll get you up and down these hills and perform the way they need to for an old car. So it's a very desirable vehicle for great racing. She's a 104-year-old girl, and we've got her tuned up to perfection, and she does a good job for us.
We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments.
The Hemmings Motor News Great Race presented by Hagerty kept rolling as Day 4's route started with rallying through some beautiful rice fields and various orchards and groves offered a great view with mountains in the distance. Unfortunately, a high-speed police chase put a halt to the first 3 legs as the Highway Patrol closed the roads being used in the rally. About a third of the racers made it through those legs. But the rest of the teams were rerouted. So, after a quick scramble from the competition staff, racers were back on track after grabbing a delicious lunch at the lunch stop in Willits, California.
So get this, we're at where all the cars are parked, and some guy comes up with his phone. He goes, "Hey, we share the same color scheme." He had a Ford Bronco painted the same color as this. I go, "Oh, you're a car guy." I go, "Hey, you know anybody with a garage?" He goes, "Yeah, I got a lift. Come on." So we went to his aircraft hangar and used his lift and all his tools. He left us there just to do whatever while he went and got dinner, and pretty cool. Trusting people.
We're here in Willits, the gateway to the Redwood Forest. There's a huge turnout here. The crowds are huge. The smiles are huge. The classic cars are everywhere. They have a car show bigger than the Great Race all around this area here, this lovely park. It's shaded, lunches provided for the racers. Everybody came out, smiles all abound, and I'm excited to see the Redwoods.
From there, racers jumped back on Highway 101 and made their way into Logan, which is home to the drive-through tree park and the famous chandelier tree, which stands 314 feet high and measures 21 feet in diameter. The park was part of the route, giving all racers a chance to pass through the tree and have their photo taken. It was a fun experience for everyone.
It took me 3 pictures to get it all in one. I used the panorama.
Once the racers reached the day's finish line, temperatures were in the 50s with a cool breeze and fog rolling in from the coast. A big difference from the scorcher of the day before. The winner of Stage 4 is car number 31, with driver Chad Caldwell and navigator Jenny Caldwell in their 1931 Auburn with a time of just 2.42 seconds over perfect.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
We had an interesting day this morning. The road was closed and we had to make a detour. We got back on time and then we got to lunch and we had a great lunch in Willett, California. We went to Willett and had a very good lunch. And then after lunch we started back. We were almost late starting back from lunch for the construction zone. But then after lunch we finished rallying and then we went through the Redwood Forest, which was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful drive. And then we took our time driving through the forest on the Avenue of Giants. I think we were almost the last car in because we were sightseeing.
Car's been running better today. I had to do a lot of adjustments on it, but we got it where it at least got to the finish line. We run out of gas coming down the road, coming in here, and we was able to limp it into a gas station. At least we put about 22 gallons in the 18-gallon tank, and we got it. It's got an inline 8-cylinder Lycoming engine, about 300 cubic inches, 125 horsepower, and it ran pretty good today over the hills and everything. But we were not expecting this. Yeah, it rides good. It's not the best rally car, but it rides good and it looks good. If it ran as good as it looked, we would do this all the time. But it doesn't usually run that good.
We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments.
The start of Day 5 marks the halfway point of the great race. The weather left a little to be desired, as most of the morning consisted of overcast skies, which eventually led to a mist and showers. Mixed with temperatures that struggled to get out of the 50s, it made for some uncomfortable conditions, especially for the open cars. The morning route started with a cool area where wild elk gather around. After stopping to take pictures of the elk, the route took racers through a brief run of the redwood trees and then back onto Highway 101.
The wet is not so bad, but the cold is a little rough. So we're putting a little bit of engine heat though. Not much. He gets a little bit of engine heat. I don't seem to get it. But no, we're putting together a decent run and we're staying mostly dry, just doing the best we can.
Racers made their way to Gold Beach, Oregon for lunch, which was a bit of a washout, but racers still enjoyed a warm and dry area to eat a quick lunch before fueling up and hitting the afternoon route.
How was the course?
Foggy. Very foggy.
Any trouble?
No, not really, just fog. Loose gravel. Almost got sideways. Almost dropped the tire off to the side of the road, but missed a couple of warning signs, but everything's good. Did well. We're happy.
Are you ready to thaw out? We were using this raincoat for protection over my navigation. So thank you, Coker Tire.
After lunch, racers made a big loop that provided some great views of the Rogue River, including a couple of one-lane bridges. From there, they retraced their steps back into California and rallied into Grants Pass, Oregon, where they were greeted by thousands of spectators.
And the way it works is time, speed, distance. You're given the time and the speed, but not the distance. The odometer is covered up. So in order to be at the right place at the right time, you have to be at the right speed. So they give you the speed, you have to run that speed when they tell you to. Now, if something gets in your way and you slow down, you've got to make up that time. So you have to know how to correct for things that get in your way. But if everything's going correctly, if you're standing by the side of the road and the race is coming by, every minute one car will go by at exactly the same speed each time. And with so many cars in the rally, that takes about an hour and a half for the rally to pass one point.
The crowd was thick, and thankfully the weather improved with a bit of sunshine toward the end of the evening's festivities. The winner of Stage 5 is car number 66 with driver Jody Knowles and navigator Beth Gentry in their 1932 Ford Cabriolet with a time of just 4.8 seconds over perfect.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is not their first time to do this. Done it many times over the years.
Well, it was very cold and wet, and we're not used to the cold, so Jody and I had to bundle up. We tried to stay dry as best we could, and we had a couple of different time delays, different incidents that came along, and we were able to maneuver through them and get ones on every leg, so we were super excited about that.
Another day in the books. How many more days we got? How many more of these we need, and we'll be probably right where we want to be.
We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments.
Day 6 was one of those unforgettable great race days for racers as they got to experience Crater Lake National Park. Racers started the day's course with a long run through the hills and trees that surround towns such as Butte Falls, Prospect, and Union Park, Oregon. Then, it was time to traverse Crater Lake and grab lunch at one of the restaurants inside the park. The road that winds around the lake ranges from 7,000 to 8,000 feet in altitude, and racers experience snow showers and strong winds early in the day. The lake is nearly 2,000 feet deep, and the interesting vantage point from high above the water provides one of the most majestic sights in the United States. After all the snowy fun, the racers went back on the clock for another long run. This time, it was a long straight stretch that tied racers back into Highway 97 for a few moments and then peeled off to check out the Cascade Lakes National Scenic Byway. These long runs can be tricky, but that's all part of the challenge of the Great Race. Finally, racers landed in Bend, Oregon for their evening stop. Cool temperatures and light rain showers were not exactly prime conditions for a big spectator crowd, but the locals showed up to see the cars cross the finish line. Great racers range from longtime automobile collectors to young folks who have just begun their journey into an old car hobby. Because of the diverse field of competitors, there are 5 divisions: Grand Championship, Expert, Sportsman, X-Cup, and Rookie.
So today we started in Grants Pass, Oregon. And for lunch, we let the racers have an hour and a half off at Crater Lake. Maybe the most incredible place the Great Racers ever stopped. And we've been to a lot of great places. We've been in front of the White House. We've been to Mount Rushmore. We've been to the Grand Canyon, but I'm telling you, Crater Lake was probably the best sight the Great Racers ever seen. And then we came in here to Bend, Oregon. You know, it was snowing and 36 degrees and here in late June on top of Crater Lake. But now we came down here to Bend, Oregon. It warmed up quite a bit, and there's a lot of action in the streets. We're in downtown Bend, Oregon at the end of day 6 of the 2019 Hemmings Motor News Great Race presented by Hagerty. In 6 days, we've had 6 different winners. And on the route today, all the way from Grants Pass, Oregon, up to Crater Lake, and then back down the other side to Bend, Oregon, the winners were Josh Hull and Trevor Stahl in their awesome 1932 Ford dirt track racer called Stars and Stripes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Day 7 had racers journey through some giant hills, twists, and turns. They started their day in Warm Springs, Oregon, and rallied their way through a beautiful road full of tough speed changes, elevation changes, and tight turns.
Oh, it was actually pretty easy as courses go. No tricks, no hidden checkpoints or anything like that. We still did horribly. I think our speedo is drinking early in the morning, so because it just keeps spinning around in all different directions. So we got absolutely no idea how fast we're going. We try and use the factory speedometer, but that's a little questionable in accuracy. But we're having fun, and isn't that what counts on vacation, right?
The scenery was outstanding, as the landscape allowed you to see the road in the valley below. The ups and downs led racers back to Highway 26, where they would continue their northern trek to Hood River, Oregon for lunch. The folks at Western Antique Aeroplane and Automobile Museum opened the doors to racers, participants, and staff. The giant building was packed with vintage cars, trucks, motorcycles, and airplanes.
We're in beautiful Hood River, Oregon. The cars are coming in for lunch at the Western Antique Aeroplane and Automobile Museum. You can see Mount Hood behind me. Well, you can't see it because of the clouds, but it's absolutely gorgeous here. The weather is perfect and the racers are rolling in.
The racers enjoyed a long lunch, allowing them time to enjoy the museum and the beautiful weather. Racers hopped on historic US 30 after lunch for a breathtaking and very photogenic route. The switchback curves and extreme elevation grade made it tough to hold speed. The winner of Stage 7 is car number 1 with driver Howard Sharp and navigator Doug Sharp in their 1916 Hudson Hill Climber with a time of just 3.30 seconds over perfect.
And for the first time in 7 days, we have a repeat daily winner. Doug and Howard Sharp in their 1916 Hudson Pikes Peak Hill Climber. What was your score today, Doug?
A 3.3.
3.3, all the way from Bend, Oregon, up to Hood River, and then over the river, over the Columbia River, and into Vancouver, Washington. Only 2 days left until we find out who the overall winner is of this year's great race.
The run was fantastic today. We had an awesome start to the day. Definitely a little chilly, just under 50 degrees when we started. I think it might have been under 40, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty darn cold.
It's really warm now, and we cruised along the morning just did a fantastic job. The driver's day, so I just tell him what to do and just watch him watching the Speedo, and everything worked out really well. Oh yeah. Well, we were layered up. I had about 5 layers on myself, and by noon we were peeling them off pretty fast because it got hot really quick.
For day 8, the time portion of today's course began in Longview, Washington. John Klassen designed a course that would send the racers on a series of scenic roads following the Columbia River. The route included a covered bridge and then eventually crossed back into Oregon, making a pit stop in the beautiful city of Astoria, Oregon. A quick snack, a restroom break, and a bit of fellowship was a perfect way to break up the morning route.
We think we did pretty good. We ain't sure. We're going to find out tonight when we hit the end, but I think we did.
The weather was absolutely beautiful in Astoria, and the people were very kind. From there, racers made their way back to Longview, which hosted one of the largest lunch stops in recent Great Race history. The town welcomed the racers with open arms and put on a car show of their own to coincide with the rolling display of vintage iron. The afternoon route sent the racers on a challenging course with the beautiful Mount St. Helens in view.
That's okay. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Let me see those. Pretty good competitor. There you go.
The day ended at the LeMay Collections at Marymount, an absolutely stunning display on the property of an old Catholic boys' school in Spanaway, Washington. Harold LeMay spent his life collecting cars, trucks, and many other items, and purchased the property many years ago. The sheer quantity of items in the collection could have kept anybody occupied for days, but racers made a quick trip through the various buildings and enjoyed a delicious meal while waiting for the final scores to be tabulated and finalized.
Here we are at the end of day 8 on the 2019 Hemmings Motor News Great Race presented by Hagerty, and for the first time, we've had back-to-back winners. They've also won 3 times on this year's race. They're in first place overall. Doug and Howard Sharp in their 1916 Hudson Pikes Peak Hill Climber. 1 day left, about 150 miles to the finish line. If you guys can hold it together, maybe you're going to be taking home the Grand Championship.
The bird.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back with more of the Great Race in just moments. The Hemmings Motor News Great Race, presented by Hagerty, is brought to you by Coker Tire Company, the world's leading supplier of tires and wheels for collectors' vehicles since 1958.
For the 9th day of rallying, racers faced a challenging final stage with a multitude of speed changes and maneuvers, leading to the culmination of the 2019 Hemmings Motor News Great Race presented by Hagerty. While the scores were being tabulated, racers stopped at the Pacific Raceways to watch a little bit of drag racing action and partake in some good old racetrack food. Afterwards, racers made their way back into Tacoma to cross the finish line at the LeMay, America's Car Museum, which offered the perfect venue for the event.
And here we are at the world famous Tacoma Dome, ready in just a few minutes to welcome the first of the great race finishers. The Lumet Museum has put on a spectacular show here. There's a car show going on. There's cars down the boulevard. We have a military display up. We have vendors out here. The excitement is boiling, and people just can't wait to see these cars arrive.
The winner of Stage 9 is car number 2, with driver Curtis Graft and navigator Wayne Bell in their 1932 Ford Roadster with a time of just 4.05 seconds over perfect.
He chose a brilliant car to great race in, and he's finished right now. Welcome. You didn't kind of navigator. The winner of the X Cup class from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Congratulations. Outstanding. 3 minutes, 22 seconds for the week. We're proud of all of you. Outstanding work, boys. I absolutely love it. Anticipation. This is the rookie class, first timers. Let me see what's going on here. In this particular matchup, the 1963 Corvette is the winner. Rick Hoare and Rob Romer out of Massachusetts. These boys have a brilliant little car with a score of 2 minutes, 53.7 seconds. Sportsman Division, the winner this year. Catfish and Banana in their 1960 Studebaker Hawk. Are you kidding me? Awesome, Brad and Aaron, congratulating them. You see this great race family, they're so excited. It is my privilege and honor, with a score of 1 minute, 1 minute 11, 1 minute 11.38. The Dixie Darlings have won the Division. Are you serious? Joe, thank you, man. Past grand champion. Fairport, New York, you have won another championship. 1916, Hudson Howard and Doug.